Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. I'm It's Robbie Rhino, and in today's video I have 3 gameplays for you in the premium German Era 2 heavy tank. It's the LEOPARD 2AV. So of course this falls within the Western Alliance branch of the Cold War game mode, and this tank was released I believe a week after the LEOPARD VT2, which is an Era 2 German premium medium tank, and they are kind of similar in terms of their armor layout. Very good hold down. The LEOPARD VT2 is slower with much better penetration, higher alpha damage, a little bit less DPM, and at the time I much preferred the LEOPARD VT2. It just felt more comfortable, and it is definitely a good tank for newer players due to the fact that the penetration is a lot higher than on this tank. But after tweaking the commander and equipment setup a little bit, playing it again, I have to say that I'm swinging around to liking this tank a heck of a lot. It's been an absolute blast playing this tank over the last couple days, and I'll be telling you all about why I believe that this is probably the superior tank, especially for a slightly more experienced player and a player that knows about a few of the weak points on the enemy team's tanks. But first, I'd like to say a massive thank you to everyone for your support during 2022. I never imagined I'd get the channel to where it is now, and I wouldn't have got the channel to where it is now without all of your amazing support. It's been fantastic interacting with all of you, and I really can't wait for 2023 and to put out more content and do more giveaways to say thank you to you all. So yeah, thank you all so much. It means a lot to me, and it's been an absolute blast. But in today's video, like I said, we have the 3 gameplays in the LEOPARD 2AV, and also, like I said, I used to prefer the LEOPARD VT2 to this tank, and it was mainly due to that penetration difference. But checking the marks of excellence requirements on this tank before I started playing it again for a couple of sessions, I noticed at the time of making this video anyway, it is the hardest tank to 3 mark and to get the 100% of mark of excellence in Era 2 of the Cold War game mode, so it must be played exceptionally well by really good players. And yeah, after having played this again, it's no surprise to me that it's played so well and it is so popular. So the LEOPARD 2AV, as you can see, has 3,100 hit points, which is a lot more than the VT2. And due to the fact that the armor is slightly more reliable, slightly more resilient than the LEOPARD VT2, I believe that it does suit players that know how to use the armor, go hold down, and it is more resilient than the VT2, and you have more of a better chance of fighting back against enemy tanks when you know how to penetrate them, due to the fact that this tank has a slightly higher DPM. So the LEOPARD 2AV's gun is a 105mm gun. The alpha damage on the standard and premium rounds is 460 and 570 alpha damage with lovely HESH rounds. The only problem is the penetration is very low on your standard APF SDS rounds at 370. And you have heat as a secondary ammunition option. The penetration is slightly better at 430, but heat is very hard to use in the Cold War game mode due to the fact that there is lots of spaced armor, all of the composite armor to protect against HE, heat, and ATGM, so the heat is kind of redundant. I carry a few just in case I come across tanks without any spaced armor and I'm firing at long ranges, because heat won't lose penetration over distance, but I mainly carry the APF SDS rounds and the HESH. In terms of the shell velocity, very nice on the standard rounds, 1455 meters a second, 1173 meters a second shell velocity on the heat, and 737 meters a second shell velocity on the HE. So not bad shell velocity, and if you can make the penetration work, you do have better DPM. You have much better mobility with this tank. You have a whopping engine. I believe the engine is 1500 horsepower with a power to weight ratio of 26.35. So you get around a lot easier than you do in the LEOPARD VT2. So I'll tell you about my commander and equipment setup and what I've tweaked from my previous play sessions about sort of half a year ago to the play sessions that I've had over the last couple of days, and let you know how I like to play this tank, and we'll talk about the map positions and the gameplay in the background. So in terms of the Leopard V and the equipment setup, I used to run advanced loader, gun stabilizer and traction system. Now I have changed that to advanced loader, improved ventilation and traction system. So I've swapped out the stabilizer for improved ventilation. And I run the same commander exactly, which is Sixth Sense, Born Leader, Rapid Loading, Steady Aim, Rapid Aim, Snapshot, Run and Gun, Armor Angling and Track Mechanic. In terms of my consumables, you can see I run large med, large repair kit and combat rations, where I used to run the whole patch kit. So I've boosted everything about the tank and I've taken off the whole patch kit in exchange for the combat rations to improve the DPM and the gun handling. And yeah, it just feels so much better now with the ability to fight back with a better DPM. And when you do know the weak spots of the enemy tanks, this DPM feels very nice indeed. So if you have a setup exactly the same or similar to mine, your aim time will now be 1.72 seconds. You've got an accuracy of 0.26, which is brilliant. Your DPM will be a whopping 4,623, which means I reload for that 460 alpha damage or the 570 alpha damage with Hesh in 5.97 seconds. And yeah, you can make that work, and you can certainly rack up the damage and pick up a heck of a lot of silver indeed in this tank, because the silver bonus is 65%. So yeah, I'm slowly leaning towards this tank and feeling like it's a lot better than the Leopard VT2. However, the VT2 might be a good option or a better option for slightly newer players that don't know all of the weak spots and want better penetration. They're a little bit more passive and they want to have that higher alpha damage and chunk the opponents down slowly, whereas this is really a all-in, very aggressive tank that you can set up to be an absolute ramming monster on the battlefield if you want to. And because I'm using that traction system, I'm improving my top forward speed to 72.5 kilometers an hour, my top reverse speed to 31.4 kilometers an hour, and my traverse speeds have improved as well. I've got now 36 degrees a second on my hull, and I've got 49.84 degrees a second on the turret. So I'm able to maneuver very well, get my arm around to where I need it to be, and I'm also able to ram for a heck of a lot of damage when the situation comes up. So that's it for the first gameplay in the background. You saw I didn't manage to take that one down. I just could not spot the tank in the capture circle with the true vision system, showing you that the foliage does work. But we still had a good game nonetheless, picking up just shy of 500,000 silver, 4 kills, 8k direct damage, 1.7k assistance and 1.3k blocked, and that's it just for the first game. They do get better from here on out. So let's hop on in to the second gameplay and talk about how I like to play this tank. So we're now into the second gameplay and we are here on Siegfried line. So a relatively small map, and we can use the boosted mobility that we now have due to the fact that we have a traction system as a piece of equipment on this tank to get into very aggressive locations. And this gameplay in particular is a perfect example of the kind of style you can pick up with in this tank if you're confident with it, if you boost the DPM, if you use the ramming capabilities, you go hold down where possible, and it just shows how resilient this tank is with the 3,100 hit points. And this gameplay also highlights the difference between this tank and the Leopard VT2, which is the competition to this tank basically. So I couldn't do what I'm doing in the Leopard VT2. The DPM wouldn't have been good enough, the mobility wouldn't have been good enough to do the little bit of ramming damage that I'm going to be doing in this gameplay. And the DPM and extra hit points just really helps out with the Leopard 2AV. So here on Siegfried line, we've pushed forward to a very aggressive location. I saw with the true vision system, I was scanning the open field to my right, and I didn't see any enemy tanks advancing, especially enemy light tanks. So I've come to this ridgeline here where I can spot out towards the south. So we're situated in E5 here, and I've noticed some tanks going in ahead of me, and I'm going to pick my moment and go forward and be the aggressor with them and push the tempo of this battle, because it seems like the team, or the enemy team I should say, are all in the town. So if we can flank from the south, we're going to pincer them in the town be shooting from different angles, creating that crossfire, and that should be a victory for us if we're able to keep this tempo up. You can see there the 9 degrees of gun depression, nice and flexible on this tank, and you've got 20 degrees of gun elevation. And now we're just trying to find any kind of spot where we can go hold down, minimize the chances of the enemy shooting our lower plate or our upper hull if they have enough penetration, and we're just trying to keep moving, trying to angle as much as possible and keep as many rounds bouncing off of our tank as possible. We're using the distraction from our teammates down below, but we're also causing a distraction to this Magak 5, who, tries to get out of the way. I was going for an epic cliff dive there. Unfortunately, we don't get the kill, but he is taken out by our friendly FE4 211. We are up by 2 tanks, and we want to keep up this aggressive push, so we're going to use the mobility here to try and find our next targets. We're going to go to where the biggest brawling or the most action is happening on the map, and we're just going to push our weight around. We're going to go there for a ram on the T-72AV. We're going to lock him in place against this wall and put round after round into the rear of this tank. And with that boosted DPM, you can see there, you can get your rounds out very quickly indeed. It's a little bit of a risk. Maybe if you're a little bit unexperienced using combat rations, you could either use a smoke consumable or a whole patch kit if you really wanted. But once you get to grips with most of the maps and the weak points, you really can go all out with the DPM and then go all out with the ramming, as we're now getting some lovely ramming damage there on that Leopard 1A1. Just a couple of nudges gave us an extra 400, 500 damage. And now we're going to go for the tracks on this FE4 211. With this reload, you can definitely keep people perma-tracked if you aim for the tracks and they don't have a great commander and equipment set up. You really can keep them. We're going to use the fantastic reverse speed that we've boosted to get to this corner, so if our friendly tank dies there, I'm able to get out of the way of 2 tanks firing at me. One last tracking shot into that FE4 211, and then we can reverse up and bait them towards our friendly tanks that are coming in from the north to help me. And yeah, in a very short space of time, we've picked up an astronomical amount of damage, and that kind of damage in an Era 2 premium tank with a 65% silver bonus is going to give you a lot of silver. So not very many games to pick up a lot of silver in this tank, especially if you are having a good battle. And by picking up the tempo, going forward, taking hits where necessary, using the 3,100 hit points we have, we managed to take that one down with the help of our team, pincer the enemies in the town and take that one down. And in that game, we finished in the MVP slot on our team with a 588,000 silver profit, just shy of 600,000 silver. And we finished with 9.5k direct damage, 1.4k assistance, 3 kills and 460 blocked, showing you this is a fantastic all-round sort of main battle tank, heavy tanks slash. It's fantastic, and the next game is going to be even better than this one, and that'll be the third and final gameplay of today's video, so let's go forward into that one. So we're now into the third and final gameplay of today's video in the Leopard 2AV on my favourite map, Westfield. And we're going to use the fantastic engine power and mobility of this tank to race up this hill. As you can see, we're in a heavy tank, but we are way ahead of all of our teammates behind us. And we're going to head towards the brawling location in the northwestern portion of the map with all of the ridge lines. We're going to be scanning the horizon towards the 0 line just to see if we can spot anyone crossing. We might get a sneaky shot on the move at someone crossing, and it's those little things that pick up that extra bit of damage that will help you out in the battles to take the game down later on. As much damage as you can do early on means that later on, when the battle is close or potentially close, you're able to potentially have tanks on one-shots already, and that will give you the upper hand. But we're going to race as far forward as we can, go hold down, and we're going to get shots on tanks that are still making their way into position. And that's the beauty of having a tank with such good mobility. We've caught this Mobat with his pants down, and we're just going to pummel round after round into him. he's going to have a very hard time penetrating through my turret. We bounced 570 damage there, and yeah, he's gone within the first minute and a half of this battle. And now we're going to push forward over another ridge line, use the distraction of our teammate, get a shot into the side of that Leopard 1A1, and our friendly M60A2 takes him out. And we're going to rinse and repeat, go forward to the next ridge line, go hull down, and we're going to aim for tracks where possible, try and get as much tracking assistance as possible, and also go for the weak spots. Because of the penetration with this tank, we're going to try and go through the drive wheel, we're aiming for cupolas, the sides and rears of tanks, and if we can't penetrate them, we might as well track them in place for our friendly tanks. And if you can make that work, then I believe you'll find that this tank is a lot better than the Leopard VT2, and it's a lot more rewarding when you do have a good game. And the armor does feel more resilient, it feels more reliable, and ramming in this tank is a heck of a lot of fun. You can ram in the Leopard VT2, it's a very chunky boy as well, with lots of composite armor on the turret, good hold down, but you just can't pick up the momentum with that tank. And this 1500 horsepower engine really does push you into tanks. With a heavy tank with a power to weight ratio of 26.35, so a little bit below 30, you're looking at kind of medium tank, light tank territory in terms of the power to weight. And when you've got extra weight due to the fact you've got composite armor on your tank, then you can do lovely bits of ramming damage, track them in place like that, and then pop a shell into the rear of them and take them out. And you've got enough hit points to make you last in the battle. And yeah, I've kind of fallen in love with this tank. I would like to go for the 3 mark. The requirement is very high indeed. It's well above 7.5k combined, I believe, which is the highest in Era 2, like I said at the start of this video. But it would definitely be a fun attempt trying to do it, and you'd make a absolute ton of silver while you're at it. So yeah, we've been the aggressor in this battle on the ridge lines. We're the first one here spotting these tanks on the 0 line, which means we get all of the spotting assistance. We can go hull down here, and as long as our turret's pointing at the biggest threat, we should be able to last here for the rest of the battle and get as much extra damage as possible. I'm going for the turrets of tanks that I know I can shoot, and it is worth spending a little bit of time in the garage looking at tanks that you might be struggling penetrating, looking at the armor layout, searching YouTube for people that have done armor guides and armor profile reviews. There are quite a few people, and I'd like to do some on my channel as well. And it's those little things that will just boost your gameplay, and if you do want to get better, then I highly recommend checking out all of the other World of Tanks console YouTubers, community contributors, as well as people that aren't in the program but do fantastic work anyway. So now we've pushed forward again to a ridgeline, and it really is rinsing and repeating, going hull down, aiming for the tracks to keep this T72AV still so we'd have a better chance of going through his front. He's slightly tilted up, which means we can go through the lower plate. The FE4 211 is using the hit points that he has at the end of the battle, and that's really what you should do, taking hits, getting as much out of the last remaining minutes of the battle, because you won't be able to do it when it's over. And now we've got a few extra. We're going to go in for a ram on the weakest target there on the Leopard 1. Nearly 600 ramming damage, a shell, and then hopefully we can reload in time for the kill on the Magak 6B Gal, which we don't, but we still end with an epic game. Not quite the 10k direct damage, but a very nice game indeed. Nearly 600,000 silver profit, again with the MVP on the team. 2 kills, 9.5k direct damage, 1.7k assistance, and 570 blocked, and it really is a fantastic all-round vehicle, great DPM, fantastic mobility, and if you can make that penetration work, you will go a long way with this tank. That's a 5-minute battle, and we picked up a lovely 11.2k combined damage there, so I hope that shows to you how good this tank is. And if it's on sale again, I highly recommend you purchase this if you're looking for another Era 2 medium or heavy tank, as this plays the role of both. Thank you all again so much for your support during 2022. I'll be back with the content and the giveaways in 2023. I wish you all the best for 2023, and until next time, I'll see you on the battlefield, and bye for now.